I'm Sharon Willis, the Executive Director of the Enrichment Center. The Enrichment Center is an extremely valuable asset in the schools and in what we're doing. I really am passionate about the counselors being in the schools, embedded in the schools, because they can really meet the needs of the students there. Students today struggle with many issues. They're concerned with what happens on social media. They worry about grades. They worry about being the best at baseball or football or lots of other things. The students also, they have more pressure than than I know I ever had. And so we find students who are dealing with emotional trauma. We find students who are dealing with stress. We find young students who have even contemplated, why should I be here? Why should I stay? So that's why it's so important, I think, for mental health counselors to be in the schools. Those counselors are trained to know what to do, to know how to work with children, to know how to provide treatment plans for children, and to help them get better. We honestly take a lot of time for our physical health, but how many of us think about our mental health? How many of us think about our mental health for our children? And that's why the Enrichment Center is such an important part of the community, such an important part of our schools, is that we do think about the mental health, and we do help children to develop positive coping skills and positive ways of dealing with trauma, of dealing with grief, of dealing with just everyday issues that seem so huge in a middle school or a high school student's mind. We help them realize that a temporary problem is just that. It's a temporary problem, and that they have a full life to live if they learn to cope and if they learn to deal with things. So that's why we're there. I think the community should really look at supporting what's happening in the schools just by virtue of the fact that we're taking care of your kids. We're listening. We're a safe place for them to come and talk to a trained counselor, a counselor that they can trust, a counselor that's in the schools and knows the schools, and it's just a positive thing. They have somewhere they can go. You know, school counselors are wonderful, but having been a principal, I know how busy they are. They're taking care of 600 or 700 kids to one counselor, and that makes it very difficult for them to spend an hour with a child who's struggling. So we're really excited that we can be in the schools, and we need the community's support to stay there. We do not file insurance, we don't file Medicaid, and the reason for that is we want to meet and help any student who needs our services, any student that needs to talk to our counselor. We want her to be available to talk to that student.